Welcome to the MAE Student Design Center training series. This video is designed to overview the safe and proper operation of the roll and bandsaw. The roll and bandsaw is used to produce a straight cut in a workpiece. You should never cut hardened materials in this facility. Some common examples of that are files, guideways, tools, and dowel pins. If you are unsure of whether or not a material has been hardened, you need to perform the file test. Before you do any cutting, you need to ensure that the blade guide is adjusted to the proper height. Come around to the back side of the machine, hold the blade guide with one hand to ensure that it does not fall, and then loosen the knob. Then move the blade guide down to within 1/4 inch of the top of the vise, or the top of your workpiece, whichever is taller. Then tighten the blade guide back down. Since this is a powered machine, we need to make sure that we remove any gloves prior to use. There are 3 controls for the roll and bandsaw located under the table that you need to be comfortable with using. First, the power controls. Turn the blade on by pressing the green button. Turn it off by pressing the red button. Next, you have the feed engagement lever. Pull this up to move the blade forward slightly. You need to do that to engage the gravity feed. Control the gravity feed with the feed adjustment knob under the table. Rotate that slightly and gently, counterclockwise, to begin feeding the blade forward. When you are done, rotate back to the S position, and then press down on the feed engagement handle to retract the blade. On the roll and bandsaw, your workpiece is held in a vise. It's a good practice to use a rag to wipe out the vise to remove any chips. And then you can place your workpiece into the vise, move the vise forward gently into engagement. You don't need to tighten it down yet. Then you want to pull your blade forward so that you can see where on the workpiece you're about to cut. Use this to adjust where on the workpiece you're cutting to make sure you're lined up with where you desire to make your cut. Tighten the vise handle down, retract the blade, and then you may begin your cut. When you're ready to make your cut, press the green button to turn the machine on. Move the blade slowly into engagement. Be mindful that any large vibrations, squealing, or chattering is a sign that your material is too hard or you're feeding too fast. Notice how I keep one hand on the feed engagement lever the entire time. As you may have noticed previously, I did not allow the trailing edge of my blade to cross all the way through my workpiece. This was done to ensure that the blade is not pulled off of its guide wheels during retraction. So, you need to take precautions that the blade does not cross all the way off the workpiece. The best way to do this is to keep one hand on the feed engagement lever and apply a little bit of vertical force down to keep the blade from jumping out once you cut all the way through the workpiece. Now, if you do accidentally come all the way through the workpiece, turn your feed engagement knob all the way to S so that the blade is no longer feeding, unclamp the workpiece and remove it after turning the machine off, and retract the blade all the way. In this case, you can see that the back of the blade has crossed all the way through the workpiece. So, now I am, with the blade off, going to unclamp the workpiece, remove it, and then retract the blade. Once you've finished cutting, you need to clean up the machine. The goal of cleanup is to ensure that the machine is cleaner once you're done machining than when you found it. To do this, first take the brush from under the table, wipe out the vise and off the table. Then you can use one of the push brooms in the shop to sweep everything on the floor into a pile, and then collect that pile with the dustpan and brush.
Now let's discuss the sign posted by the roll-in bandsaw to understand what it outlines. First section of the poster explains the 4 speeds available for the roll-in bandsaw and the materials acceptable to cut at each speed. If the machine is set at a speed that is not appropriate for cutting your material, then ask your safety steward to adjust the speed for you. The next section discusses proper part orientation. As you can see, angled stock should be oriented so that the point of the angle is directly pointed at the blade or directly away from the blade. It should never be oriented in an L shape. Flat stock should be oriented so that the widest side of the cross-section is engaged with the blade. For all of these materials, the rule of thumb is to maintain as close to a constant cross-sectional area as possible while engaging the maximum number of blade teeth. The next section explains proper stopping of the blade. This is a reminder of what was shown previously in this video. Remember to stop the blade once the leading edge crosses through the workpiece, but before the trailing edge does. If this happens, remember to turn off the machine, remove the part and stock from the vise, and then retract the blade. The next section talks about proper tooth pitch. Tooth pitch relates to your material's thickness. The thicker the material, the lower the tooth pitch required. Materials greater than ½ inch can be cut using a blade using 6 to 10 teeth per inch. Materials between 1/4 and ½ inch can be cut using a blade with 8 to 12 teeth per inch. Materials between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch can be cut using a blade with 10 to 14 teeth per inch. When you approach the machine, the yellow tag on the machine indicates the currently installed blade. Compare the pitch of the blade with the one you need. If it is not the same, ask a safety steward to change the blade before using the bandsaw. The final section explains proper tagging procedures. As explained before, there should always be a tag indicating the currently installed bandsaw blade. Safety stewards are expected to follow these procedures when they change blades, but all facility users must be aware of the procedure in order to ensure execution. Whenever a blade is changed, the tag indicating its tooth pitch should be attached to it, and the tag from the newly installed blade should be hung on the machine to notify users of the active blade pitch. This is incredibly important to make sure that blades are not mixed up and improper pitches are used during cutting. Cutting material with an improper blade will result in drastically longer cutting times or broken blades. With this in mind, you can now safely operate and use the roll-in bandsaw in the Student Design Center. Thank you for watching. This has been the MAE Student Design Center training series Roll-in Bandsaw video.